Welcome to the deep dive. We take your source material and we really get into it, pull out the nuggets. Today, we're embarking on a pretty fascinating journey into an ancient text, the Five for Paramaṭṭhakasutta. Now, this isn't just some dusty old scripture. It's short, yeah, but challenging. It explores how our strongest beliefs or opinions can really shape our world, or maybe even, constrain it.
Mm.
So our mission is to unpack these verses, get to the core message, and see what they tell us, about human nature, and maybe a different way to understand things. What if, just what if, holding on to what we think is supreme is actually where conflict starts? So let's start right there. The core idea. The sutta talks about someone who gets settled on certain views,
Yeah.
calls them supreme. What happens then? According to this text, when someone says this view, this is the absolute best.
Well, it's pretty immediate, the consequence the text points to. As soon as you embrace your view as supreme, you inevitably look at everyone else, all the other views, and you think inferior. Hinatienya. And that leads straight to this point. Tasma vivadani avitivato. You're not free from disputes. The sutta draws a direct line. Holding your view as the best equals being caught up in conflict.
That just clicks, doesn't it? You see it everywhere. It's not just disagreeing, it's that judgment layered on top. And the text digs into the why as well, right? Why do we even do that? It says, Yad atani pasati anisasai.
That's nicely. It suggests we see some kind of, advantage or benefit, anisasi, in our own views. Maybe it's something we saw or heard, maybe a moral practice we follow, could even be just something we thought up. And because we see that personal benefit, we grasp onto it. Tarivasa tatasamogahaya. We hold it tight. And the result, everything else, abamanya, looks inferior. Niyanato. It's like a loop. Conviction leads to dismissal, which reinforces the conviction.
Okay, so holding these supreme views causes conflict, causes judgment. But what about the act of holding on itself? The clinging. What does the sutta say about that part?
Right, that's a key question. The wise ones, the kusala, as the text calls them, they point right at the clinging. They say, tavapi ganta kusala vadanti. They call that the ganta. A ganta, it's like a bond or a knot, something that ties you down. That's the thing, the bond. Yan disito pasati hinam anya, the thing you rely on that makes you see others as inferior. So it's the clinging itself that's the real issue here.
A bond. And this applies even if the view seems really good, like, a strong moral code or something we think is virtuous.
Absolutely. That's what's so challenging about this. The sutta gives this direct instruction aimed at a bhikkhu, a seeker. It means that seekers shouldn't rely on, shouldn't cling to, what they've seen or heard or perceived, or even their moral practices, salabata. It's not just avoid bad views. It's about freeing yourself from the act of clinging to anything.
Okay, whoa, let's unpack that. If you're not supposed to cling to views, not even moral practices, what does that do to how we define ourselves, how we stack up against others?
Well, the sutta goes there too. It pushes back hard against our usual habit of comparing. It says pretty clearly, don't form views based on your knowledge or your practices. And then, don't even bring yourself into a comparison as equal, inferior, or superior. It's suggesting we just step away from that whole framework, the whole comparison game, which is, radical.
Radically different, yeah. It's almost how we navigate the world, isn't it? Comparison. So if someone actually does this, let's go of the clinging, the comparison. What's the result? What's that state of being like, according to the text?
Yeah, this is really the heart of it, the liberated state. It describes someone who has a taupahaya anupadhyano, they've abandoned clinging to the self, let go of that me anchor. And get this, yatpi so nisaya no karoti. They don't even rely on knowledge itself. Think about that. Not even knowledge is the ultimate refuge. This person, savivyate zuna vagasari, they aren't partisan. They don't pick sides, even among smart, developed people. And crucially, the mbisona pacheti kinji, they just don't cling to any view at all.
No clinging to self, no reliance even on knowledge, no views. It's hard to even picture. What does that mean for how they experience things day to day? Reality?
The sutta paints a picture of, profound freedom. For someone who has no craving for existence or non-existence, bhavahavaya ida hurava, it doesn't matter if it's here or somewhere else. Then, nivesana tasna tasanti kechita misu nicheya samugahita, which means they have no fixed positions, no settled mental homes, no doctrines they've grabbed onto and said, this is it. And it goes deeper. Tasida dia va sute muta va pakapitan natiati achpisanya. For that person, there isn't even the tiniest little concept or notion imagined about what they see, hear, or sense. It's like raw perception without the overlay. So the text asks rhetorically, Ta brahmanidiyam anadiyana kanita lokasmivikapiyaya. How could you possibly label or argue about such a person, a Brahmani, a perfected one who doesn't cling to views? They're sort of beyond categories, and the ending just sums up that freedom. Nakapayanti na purakaronti. They don't conceive views. They don't promote them. Dhammapitas anapahichikas. Doctrines, teachings. They're not acceptable in that ultimate sense of something to grab onto. And na brahmas salavatana neyo paragato na pacheti tadi. A truly liberated person isn't defined or led even by morality. They've reached the far shore, paragato. And having reached it, they don't come back to clinging. They don't fall back into those old habits of mind. It's complete release.
Wow. Okay. This deep dive into the Paramaṭṭhakasutta, it's really given us a perspective that cuts against the grain, doesn't it? It's saying our very human tendency to grab a view, call it the best, define ourselves by it, that's the source of so much trouble, conflict, limitation. And the path to freedom, it suggests, it's this really profound letting go. Not just letting go of bad views, but the clinging itself to any view, any knowledge, even surprisingly moral practices. It's basically asking us to move beyond needing to be right, beyond comparison. So for you, the learner, listening in, maybe think about how often you run into disagreements online, face-to-face, where it feels like people are just locked into their view, like it's unchallengeable. What if the way through isn't about winning the argument? What if it's about, I don't know, cultivating this kind of radical non-clinging the text talks about, holding all perspectives more lightly? And what really stands out to you about this idea, that even things we cherish our knowledge, our ethics, could become a bond if we cling too hard? Could real wisdom actually be found in holding ideas gently instead of gripping them tightly? Maybe that's where a different kind of freedom lies, a freedom that doesn't need certainty. Something to think about.